anything's possible, and then they can go and take it and do what they want with it.
I think that idea of, sort of showing people that the media can be theirs is a big one, because there's a lot of merit to all this stuff, like, blogging tools and Twitter and stuff, or the scrapbooking industry that taps into people wanting to be creative and do things, but you are only work within this established model that someone has set up to accomplish something that's their goal. They leave room for you to make stuff, but the parameters are very fixed. And when you sort of are making something physical or from scratch, it's really exciting to discover that it's totally open-ended and it can go anywhere.
Exactly,
And a lot of people don't realize that that's okay and that's something they can do.
For sure.
Like a lot of people who say they can't draw just were told that they weren't drawing the way they were supposed to and how they were being taught.
Yeah.
I think like very young children can all draw really brilliantly.
Yeah.
It's just that once you learn to write, sort of drawing becomes sort of secondary. It's like you illustrate the text through writing, and like once you learn at school that you're not very good at drawing, usually from a teacher who doesn't know what they're talking about, then it's very hard to kind of.
I think it's from other kids. I work for a cartoon museum. I did the family fun days there. Kids will draw like anything in the world, and when they're left to their own devices, then they'll go to school and then they see other kids' drawings. And then they'll come home and they draw that fucking house with the and the smoke coming out like that. So it's not something forced entirely down upon them, but it's something they can come up with themselves. They become obsessed with the fact that their horsey doesn't look a proper horsey, and therefore they can't draw, and they train on the pencil. And I think artists, or the people who carry on to draw, just have something wrong with their brain chemistry where they don't care about how bad their horsey looks, and they will carry on drawing and carry on making mistakes and not caring about the mistakes. It's the mistakes that drive kids crazy. They will throw the pencil across the room after about 5 lines on a piece of paper saying, these aren't the right 5 lines, and just stop and never pick it up again.
And just following on from that, in terms of what you do at the Cartoon Museum, I think primary schools are brilliant and really good at fostering kind of young people's creativity. I would suggest that if you want to work with young people in terms of practicalities, schools is not the place to go. You've got to go to the museums, you've got to go to the libraries. They've got statutory duties to involve young people in the way that they work now. It'll be easier, it'll be more creative, because you'll be working with people like yourself who are actually up for it in the first place. Schools is always a long-term goal in terms of working with young people.
I mean, I think that with there's a lot of kind of things now with schools opening up. After after hours or on weekends and stuff.
Extended schools agenda,
so that's a kind of way into it, and it's kind of a bit more community based.
It's a way into it, certainly, but I think you should start. I think you should think about working with other statutory services as well, things like libraries and museums.
Cool, yeah.
Gosh, comics are doing it, kind of outsourcing amongst Lambeth libraries especially, but libraries in general.
One thing Gareth said is, what do you guys think? Do you think there's more opportunities to express yourself now? Or do you think it's not? So normally they say there are, and then they say the internet. As you were pointing out, it's within confined limits. Do you think it's any more or less opportunities to express yourself? I find there's so much stuff like the non-mainstream is less focused. It's like all over the place. It's hard to find a place where you pick up on that. There's actually too much.
One thing that the zines seem to have, which other media don't seem to have, particularly blogs, is that you're being surveyed. When you're doing a blog, even you can create a fake name, but someone somewhere will still be able to trace you and track you. I mean, I don't personally create a zine, but I wonder, those of you who do you find that you can say more because you know that you are completely anonymous if you want to be completely anonymous? Does that give you some sort of freedom, political freedom as well? Do you feel that?
Yeah, I think that people do think they can more or less say what they want. Yeah, it's fair to say, is it, guys? What do you reckon?
Yeah. I think there's more freedom than in, like you were saying, with the amount of surveillance and stuff that is possible with, all the internet and stuff like that. That definitely is more free, that's for sure.
It's more about aesthetic freedom, really, though, I think, isn't it? Because it's you can change the way people, if you're making something, you engineer the way someone interacts with what you're saying. You're not. If you're doing a blog, it's good, but it's of less consequence aesthetically because you're beholden to the forms that are given you and the sort of advertisement, the kind of context, the journey people take to get there and everything. So at least if you're designing and making something, you have a great deal of freedom as to how people interact with it and the overall aesthetics and how that's part of the message. Also, I was thinking maybe the harder it's maybe the easier it is, perhaps the less it means for you to be able to express yourself. So perhaps to do something that's awkward, willfully awkward and, you know, expensive or whatever, you know, or like non-kind of commercial in that way, perhaps it means a bit more because you have to stand by it, even if it's nonsense, even if when you finish you don't agree with it, you have to stand by it. And it's a kind of self-knowledge, isn't it, in that way?
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I mean, I'm a sort of zine maker. I write stories, I draw comics. And when I first started making them, I sold them to my friends and my people on my course and things. But when someone who I've never met before parts with money for something that I've made, that means more than anything else. And that's it. I mean, that is the thing. That is basically the thing that I think is brilliant. And it's a couple of quid. It's like basically it costs as much to buy my work as it costs to make it, and that means more to me than anything else.
Listen, I'm actually enjoying this talk, but I think we probably, to keep it going, we should move on to the next bit.
Has anyone got any
Yeah.
last comments or anything like that on the point?
Don't mean to cut you short. Probably that if it goes on too long, you get tired standing and it's quite warm. If you want to get a drink, there's drinks there as well, so you can funnel them through to you.
Shall we take a little break? Or?
Do you want to take a break, or do you want to keep going?
Hands up if you want to take a break. Hands up if you want to keep going. Alright, cool. Keep going then. Alright, wicked, you know.
And Jimmy's now going to say a few words about, how he's
Well,
listening.
yeah, I mean, I'm just going to talk about one of our other aims, which is developing an audience. And as I was thinking about it, and even like what we've talked about already today, as most of this has already come up, you know, but I'll just go for it bit by bit and we can kind of like go around it again, like if anyone's got any points to make. So, you know, as I was thinking about it, I was starting to think that rather than developing an audience, it's kind of like trying to generate an audience, because like what Malcolm was saying about all the punk zines and stuff and going along to gigs, a lot of that seems to have kind of died away now, you know, and that zine making and stuff is less like visible, like in the public eye, you know. People don't really know about it anymore, like, you know. The scenario is like I'm at work and it's the usual Monday morning conversation, do you have a good weekend? What were you up to? Yeah, I was making a zine, or I was at a zine event. I mean, not that I'm at a zine event every weekend, but occasionally I am. And then the inevitable question, what's a zine or what's a zine? You know, if they've read it on a page, I don't know what it is, you know. You know, I can explain it, but for most of those people, they can't imagine it because they may be too young to have seen it before, you know, so they can't really understand what it's all about, you know, until they actually, I say